I think the reason why emotionally mature people keep coming back to this channel is not because we sometimes disagree and vehemently so, but because once in a while you will hear things here that you won't hear anywhere else, or at least hear first. Let me take a sip of my coffee. How about it? So, as the title suggests, or states explicitly, it is my explicit opinion that Tartaria, right, is a Eurasianist Psyop. So, there's a bunch of these weirdo New Agers, and I don't necessarily have a problem with New Age, but the weirdos, yes. Weirdo New Agers who, in Russia, who believe all kinds of crazy shit, right? Like, and I don't give a shit about their names, so whatever. Sorry about that. But, I would venture a guess if one of these nerds who's really good with names and connecting the dots and researching and, never leaving the house, being stuck on his computer all day, could probably connect the dots and they will go all the way back to Dugin, right? But there's, suffice it to say, a bunch of these new age weirdos in Russia, like some dude whose wife, right, uh, claims to be Jesus Christ, for example, stuff like that, and along those lines, right? This whole idea that somehow Russia isn't degenerate like the West. Well, no, they're not degenerate like the West, even though they also have some of that kind of degeneracy, but they have all kinds of degeneracy of their own, right? Traditionalist degeneracy, right? With nukes in hand. Very traditionalist. Anyway, and there are, I don't know, those of you who have taken an interest in Tartaria have probably seen, that video of Putin being handed a map of Tartaria. And some people took that to say, look, it's really true. It's suppressed history. No, it's not. This is a lot of people in the West simply, they were taught a certain kind of history and nothing about other people's history, maybe, right? But it's a well-known fact that Tartary existed, at least in the minds of the Holy Roman Empire, right? Just the same way the Roman Empire called Germania, Central, Eastern, mostly Central Europe, right? Populated by Slavs, primarily, first and foremost. They call that Germania, right? The Holy Roman Empire, right? So essentially the same legacy and probably, most likely, some of the same ruling families called those Asians over there Tartaria, right? Because they didn't care to know or didn't know, or both, much about those people over there, except that they were, kind of different looking. And, so Mongols, maybe Tajiks, what was to become the Chinese, right? And all these other various nations, all those people over there, that was Tartary, right? Let me take another sip. And it seems that there was a country, region, with perhaps, I don't know. This is the problem with conquerors, right? If you have any history books, once they get to you, they burn them up, right? And they write your history for you. And if you happen to dig up some old book, right? Or somebody happens to research old history back in the day and then write a chronicle about that. Well, no. Those are fake, all right? You did not write your own history, we did, right? That's just how it works, unfortunately. So we cannot know much about Tartary, but we know enough to know that it existed. Whether it was like a loose confederacy of, various Asian peoples or more cohesive state, well, I suppose that's debatable, right? It was that other Kraina U, or before there was Kraina U, there was Tartary. So yeah, but it was confined mostly, if not exclusively, to the Asian continent, right? That's what it was. You had Scythia, Tartary, Germania, so on and so forth. So it's not like this place that was, completely unknown and we recently rediscovered it, and it seems to have spread all into Europe and now America, right? This is why I call it a Eurasianist Psyop. Now, I'm not saying that Alexander Dugin came up with some great cunning plan to give Putin this map and record the ceremony and put it out there. But it seems to me that people who push this nonsense of Tartary they've used this as a tool to brainwash more people. Somebody did, and there are a lot of people who believe this stuff genuinely and are just useful idiots. But the simple fact that this idea has grabbed hold of people's brains, right? And has spread all the way into Australia, the United States, and all these people now somehow believe, right, that at some point in time they were united with, these Asians over there, where it came out of. To whatever degree they believe this nonsense, it's scary, right? Because that's exactly what Alexander Dugin wants, right? And he is an ideologue who speaks with a forked tongue, who weaponizes your history, your ideology, your worldview against you, right? In order to sell you an idea. He's a snake oil salesman, right? To get you to follow his plan. And the way this whole Tartary thing started coming out of Russia, it was always the Eurasian continent peoples confederacy, right, of sorts, against the Atlanticists or Atlanteans, right, people of Atlantis, or the transatlantic coalition or peoples, if you will, right? Or what I talk about, which is real, right? It's real to a degree. R1A versus R1B, right? Japhetites and Semites, right? And these are just generalizations, not to say that there aren't Semites or Japhetites on both sides, because there are. But roughly speaking, right? People that came into Europe over land versus a sea power, as Dugin calls it, right? The people descended from Phoenicians. Now, I happen to believe that Dugin is just a plant, right? And he said he's doing the bidding of Brzezinski, or a guy who is what he would call an enemy, right? This guy he's just a charlatan. He's a liar. He says whatever's clever, right? He's a postmodernist. Postmodernists were charlatans. They were very, very intelligent people. You mean to tell me that they truly believe that truth doesn't exist, or truth is whatever you want it to be, depending on which way the wind is blowing? No, they were too smart for that. Of course they didn't believe that nonsense. They used it to brainwash everybody else and to get their way. So they could say whatever's clever in any particular situation and not have to accept that they're contradicting themselves or that they're being untrue or false, right? That's in my opinion, right? My intuition telling me this, right? Because these people were too smart to believe the nonsense, but they were hoping that you'd buy the nonsense, right? And then they could they could frame the game however they wanted, depending on whatever situation they were in, right? And that's exactly what Dugin is doing. Contradicts himself all the damn time, like just says all kinds of things that don't cohere, right? He's full of shit. He's just brainwashing people, um, looking to start. He's an agent of chaos, obviously, right? He says he's fighting against postmodernism, but he's using postmodernity. He's using their tactics to fight. He's a postmodernist. So it's very interesting how it went from this Tartaria myth coming out of Russia, essentially, and these Russian alternative history researchers who are so blatantly wrong about so many different things. Not to say that they aren't right about some things, right? Every myth, every lie is rooted in truth, right? They make valid points about a lot of different things, and there's a lot of our history that's hidden, things happening that are unexplained, but that doesn't mean that, it's all Tartaria or anything like that, you know what I mean? Anyway, so it's very interesting how this ideology went from Japhetites versus the Semites, right? This great land power, people that brought the horse into Europe versus people that came to Europe on boats. Ultimately, sorry, my phone is. I apologize, guys. I'm not gonna redo this. This whole idea went from, just that, East versus the West, and in the minds of a lot of the Westerners, morphed into it's all of us, right? We're all part of this mythical, traditional kingdom where everything was hunky dory. We had free energy. There was no war. Everybody loved everybody, right? We had uh, one religion or one ideology, one set of beliefs, one worldview. We were just, in some way, shape, or form, uh, brought together and in a way equalized, right? This is exactly, this Tartary myth is exactly Dugin's Eurasianist vision. And it's just a different version of the New World Order, or a different way of selling that to different populations, different people, right? It's like giving them a stake in it, right? If only ideological, if only emotional, right? It plants this seed in many people's heads of a global, peaceful, loving, free energy, UBI, all those things that Klaus Schwab talks about, right? Society. And it's complete and utter nonsense. It really is. And I for a while I was sympathetic to the idea, right? because yeah, there's a lot of different anomalies, things that are unexplained. But then I started thinking about it, and like mud flood, it's very easy to explain, right? Just have to like try to let go of all your preconceived notions and just try, right? Instead of coming in with this Tartaria myth, right, that's gonna influence how you interpret everything, right? Try to get rid of that and try to explain it rationally, right? Which I will do on Veni Vidi Vandali channel. I've neglected for way too long, but we'll pretty soon start making videos there, so go check it out. But yeah, it's to me, this is clearly a psyop to sell people a certain idea of a global society, and it took me a while of thinking about this to realize this, in the emergence of Alexander Dugin in my consciousness, I guess you would say, a couple of months ago, and his ideology of Eurasianism, right, and how the West seems to be taking to that, right? I'm starting to see the parallels, and one thing that really clinched the whole thing for me is that the the people who push this Tartary nonsense, right? They're always talking about what? The Great Reset, ladies and gentlemen. Is there anything else? Is there anything else I need to add? I didn't think so. Thanks for watching.